Is your heater triggering your eczema this winter? This is a topic I want to dive into because it is something that has happened to me very recently. Since it has been getting cold, we have been turning our heater system on, our HVAC system. And all of a sudden, I started to wake up congested. I was sneezing, and I did not have to guess what was going on here because it is something that I know about, and I would love to share this information with you because it might be something you don't know about. So let's talk about HVAC systems today, about turning on your heater, and even during other months, you might be turning on that air conditioner or the fan, and how this can affect your eczema. How can this affect inflammation and allergies? And let's dive into it today. So, first, we're going to talk about HVAC systems. I'm going to talk about the hidden toxins and allergens that might be lurking in your HVAC system, and how do you clean the air? How do you maintain the HVAC system? And then at the end, you can ask me any questions you would like. So please go ahead and type your comments into the chat now, and I'm happy to answer these at the end, okay? All right. So, what is an HVAC system? Well, HVAC stands for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. I want you to think of your HVAC system like the lungs of your home. The HVAC system regulates the temperature, it filters the air and circulates the air around, and really helps maintain indoor comfort from a temperature point of view and from an air circulation point of view. Now, when does the HVAC actually circulate the air? Well, there's a couple of different ways that your HVAC system can circulate the air. One, if you turn on the heater, okay, so that's why I really want to have this conversation before it starts to get really cold. As you guys are turning those heaters on, this is something to really consider. When you are turning on the air conditioner, if you do have this in your HVAC system, this can also be another time. So, again, this could be actually during the summer times that you're turning on the air conditioner. If you're turning on the fan, so this might not be during certain seasons, but you're turning on the fan. And some HVAC systems actually have continuous circulation on. And so this is something that you should know about, and you should know that this air is circulating all the time. And we are inhaling this air. I mean, we are literally inhaling this air every second of every day. And the air in our homes it's so toxic. And the HVAC system is one of the reasons why we see such toxicities in the air. Okay. So let's go into it a little bit more. What are those hidden culprits that could be hidden in your HVAC system? And why does this matter for eczema, allergies, and other inflammatory conditions? Well, there could be dust mites in your HVAC system. A lot of eczema people have allergies to dust mites. If you have allergies, if you have respiratory symptoms, even asthma, dust mites could be a big culprit. And of course, we're doing our best to clean the dust mites in our homes, vacuuming, etc. And you might be thinking, oh, I'm doing a great job cleaning all the dust mites, but you might not be thinking about this HVAC system. So those dust mites thrive in a warm, enclosed space, and that includes your HVAC ducts and those filters, okay? So research published in the Journal of Allergy and Clinical Immunology has shown that high indoor concentrations of allergens like dust mites are associated with greater sensitization, more allergy, especially in children, and this can relate to eczema and other type inflammatory type conditions. Now, mold, and I know I talk about mold a lot. Well, this is because mold is a big deal for those with eczema, those with inflammatory conditions. And what happens in the HVAC system is moisture from condensation or even leaks in the HVAC systems can create an ideal environment for mold growth. And this can also happen on duct surfaces, in the fiberglass insulation, or even the vents. So you want to check those vents and just kind of see if there's dust and other mold that might be growing in those areas. And as we talk about a lot, and I mentioned even in, I think last week or the week before session, a 2016 study showed that children living in homes with visible mold had a 55% increased risk of developing eczema. And even prenatal mold exposure has been shown to really increase the risk of atopic dermatitis or eczema in the children of the women being exposed to the mold prenatally. So, this is something you guys really should think about. And you might be thinking about mold only, where can I see the mold? You're thinking about, oh, my windows and my bathrooms and things like that. And sometimes we are not thinking about our HVAC system. So this is something I really want you to think about. And the next hidden culprit are called VOCs. This stands for volatile organic compounds. These are chemicals that are emitted from household products like cleaning agents and paints and building materials. And actually, mold releases VOCs as well too. And these can circulate through the home in the HVAC system. And unfortunately, if you have a very poorly ventilated space, the HVAC system can actually harbor these toxins and keep recirculating them through the system. So make sure that you are ventilating your space first off. And secondarily, we need to make sure that we clean up these vents. Now, a study published in the Journal of Clinical Investigation shows that environmental exposures such as VOCs can influence allergic diseases like atopic eczema. And they do this by promoting oxidative stress and initiating those pro-inflammatory responses. Because remember, eczema is really inflammation. What we're seeing is inflammation on the skin. So what is causing that is the question. And often in conventional medicine, we're really only thinking about silencing those symptoms. What medications can we take to just silence those symptoms? And we're not always thinking about what's actually triggering those symptoms to happen. So VOCs is another one on the list that might be a hidden culprit in your HVAC system. All right, so we know about pet dander and pollen. These are obvious allergens. But unfortunately, again, if you have not cleaned your HVAC system, these can be circulating in that HVAC system, hanging out there, as we see in this picture, just hanging out in those vents. And then when you turn them on, it is now circulating throughout the air in your home. Again, research published in the Journal of Allergy and Clinical Immunology has shown that other types of allergens like pet dander and pollen can also increase your sensitization to these allergens. And finally, we have bacteria and viruses that could be harbored and circulating in the HVAC system. A 2021 study analyzed samples from HVAC systems in 2 university buildings, and they identified diverse bacterial communities that are pathogenic. And they they had found 350 associations between bacterial communities and pathogenic or antibiotic resistant genes. This can highlight, how important it is when you are exposed to these pathogens, how it can actually affect public health, how it can affect our resistance to those pathogens as well, when we get exposed to them. So this can be really important. And all of these are culprits that might just be hanging out in your HVAC and you don't know about it. Maybe you've never even thought about cleaning your HVAC system. So let's talk about that now. How can we take the steps to improve indoor air quality and protect your skin, protect your allergies, and any inflammatory conditions you might be having? So we do recommend that you replace the HEPA filters that are in your HVAC system, replace them every 1 to 3 months. You want to schedule that duct cleaning every year, and we'll talk about that further in terms of, what might kind of initiate you, saying, oh, let me go get my HVAC system cleaned. I would say you can base that off of symptoms, but you can also just do it once a year. And I have now committed to cleaning my HVAC every September because I know where I live, every October, end of October, it starts to get a little bit cold, early November. So if I remember to clean my HVAC system every September, then I will be set for this winter and the cold season that's coming up. You want to inspect your HVAC system for mold and leaks, and you can see these visibly sometimes. But then again, sometimes you do need a professional to come out and check it out. If your home is very humid, this can also cause more mold growth. So you want to maintain an indoor humidity between 30 and 50%. And, for an eczema person, sometimes having a little bit more of a humid environment can be better. So for an eczema person, you might want to stick around 50% for the air humidity. But there's this delicate balance between having enough humidity in the air and also not allowing for mold to grow in the home. So I would say 50% for an eczema person is a good target. You can actually go on Amazon and just buy a humidifier, and a machine that will actually check the humidities in the air in your home. And so that's something that you can do, and they're quite inexpensive. If you have any condensation issues, so I had a problem with this with my windows. Our windows didn't have a really good seal, and so there was a lot of condensation that was always coming up, and then mold was actually growing. So we ended up replacing all those windows and getting a really good seal. But there can be this problem in your HVAC system as well, so make sure that you check on that. You can have a professional check on this for you. All right, reducing dust mites and allergens in your home in general is really important because that is where all the dust mites and the allergens are coming from in the first place. So if you make sure you reduce that in your home overall, then your HVAC system won't have as many of these allergens. You want to make sure that you're vacuuming with HEPA filters, and you want to vacuum everything from your carpets to your furniture, even your mattresses, even your pillows and all of that. You want to vacuum up all of those dust mites. So on my product recommendations, in the link in the description or in my bio, you will see that we have vacuums for your mattresses, and these are designed to vacuum up dust mites and other things that could be harbored in your mattresses and your furniture. Okay. I do want you to wash your bedding weekly as well. This is really important. Use hot water to make sure to kill those dust mites. And you can also use special laundry detergents that will kill and denature those allergens. And then I love using a steamer as well. So you can use a vacuum to vacuum up those dust mites. But if you buy a steamer, again, this is also in my product recommendations, you can also steam those dust mites, steam the allergens, and that heat actually breaks up and denatures those allergens as well so that they aren't causing problems for you. So making sure that you're maintaining a very low allergen, low dust mite environment can be important. All right, you want to purify the air. So there's two things you want to think about. You want to get an air purifier that has a HEPA filter, and this will make sure to reduce those airborne contaminants, mold spores, VOCs, dust mites, etc. You can also get an air ionizer, and this works by releasing negative ions into the air, and those negatively charged ions will bind to those positively charged dust mites, mold spores, allergens, and even toxins. And this causes them to fall out of the air, and it reduces what your HVAC system has to handle. But I do want you to make sure that you are getting an ionizer that does not create ozone as a byproduct. Ozone can affect the cilia in your nasal passages. That's really important for protecting you against all of these airborne contaminants. It can also irritate the lungs and exacerbate respiratory or skin conditions. So you might want to make sure that you are looking for an ionizer that is labeled ozone free or is certified by trusted air quality organizations. Okay, so those are some things you want to think about when purifying the air. Now, I do highly recommend you think about getting your HVAC cleaned every single year. And again, for me, I'm going to do that right before winter. We use our heater. We don't tend to use our air conditioner, but we do tend to use the heater because we don't have great insulation in our home. So it tends to be really cold in our home. We also don't have carpets. And so, it just tends to be cold. So for me, September is a great time to do that. So you need to think about this for you and your home. When would be a good time for you to get this cleaned? But every single year, you need to think about this because your HVAC is going to be accumulating these contaminants. Now, if you don't remember how long it's been since you've last cleaned your HVAC, I would first of all just recommend just go get it cleaned if you don't remember. But you may also notice a couple different things, maybe persistent musty odors near the air vents that can indicate some mold growth. If you see a lot of dust buildup in or around the vents, despite regular cleaning. So if you just keep cleaning and every single week you see dust on those vents, that's something that might tell you that the HVAC system isn't very clean right now. If you have increased allergy or eczema symptoms whenever you turn on that HVAC system, and then maybe you might notice some unusual noises or reduced airflow in your HVAC system, and that could also be a problem too. Okay. So at Clean Body, we really focus on cleaning your body to get rid of all of the burdens on your system because we believe that those burdens are what's actually triggering the inflammation and causing the eczema. And one of the things that we also need to focus on when thinking about the burdens on your system is the environmental burdens. So today we're talking about air. And air, if you think about the things we put in our body, we put into our body air, we put in water, we put in food, and those are the things, sunlight, those are the things that power us up and give us energy. Now, think about you breathing in all this air and there being so many toxins and allergens in that air. So, unfortunately, those are our homes, and we need to do the best we can to make sure that the air is really clean. So I hope that you follow these recommendations. If you haven't gotten your HVAC system cleaned in a while, make sure to go call an HVAC specialist now and get that air cleaned, okay? All right. So, if you have eczema, I do want to mention I do have so many free resources for you to take advantage of. I have a free eczema relief guide. You can check the link in my bio or just DM me and I'm happy to send this to you. I do have a free eczema root cause assessment. This is assessing your symptoms and letting you know what the root causes of your eczema might be. It's only a 3-minute assessment. And I do have a free eczema relief workshop. And this is where we dive into what are the root causes of eczema? What are your root causes? And I will also potentially analyze your eczema to help you understand what the root causes might be for you. If you're ready to meet me and book a consultation and just ready to get the journey started, definitely use the code IGDC30 to get 30% off if you're interested in meeting me personally and booking a consultation, okay? And there is a 100% money back guarantee on that as well. All right, it is time for questions. So I do want to remind you that this is for educational purposes only, and that if you want medical advice, definitely reach out to me and we can book a consultation and I can give you direct medical advice and I could give you hand holding in terms of these types of things. And so this is one of the things we do when we work with our patients is that we analyze your environment. We ask you things like, have you gotten your HVAC cleaned yearly? And we ask you these things. So we give you checklists to make sure that you are doing all the things you need to do to really clean up your system. All right. So now I would love to open it up to questions. And so go ahead and please type those questions in the chat here. And I want to go back up because I know there were a couple of questions that came up here. So let's see. What can you do when you live in a large multi-unit building that shares the same vents throughout the entire building? You get constant secondhand smoke, which travels into yours via the vents. Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay. So yes, this can be very difficult. So what you can do is make sure that the air in your own environment, that you have an air purifier, you have an air ionizer or an air purifier / air ionizer. And, you can talk to the building about this. You can talk to them about not allowing people to smoke in the building. I know in California, this is something that we do, so I don't know where you live, but you could talk to the building about that and complain about it because it's a medical issue. And then in your own immediate home, you just need to make sure that you are cleaning up the air in the home. There are little ionizers that you can actually put in the air vent exit in your home, and you could just stick that right there so all of the air that comes in through that HVAC can be cleaned up and ionized. So that's another option too. Feeling very helpless when the vents are shared and you have asthma, but your right to clean air is thoroughly violated. Ugh, I totally agree with this. And unfortunately, I think, having a conversation with your landlord can be really important. Depending on what state you are living in, you may have, you may have the ability to require them to not allow people to smoke and get those air vents cleaned every year, and that type of thing. So definitely look into that. DM me if you have any questions or need any support, okay? Why would I need two ionizers for a two-story, or would one suffice? So it depends. You would have to look at the ionizer manufacturer and make sure that it covers the space that you need. Depends how big that ionizer is. It depends on, all of those factors. So I would definitely look into the manufacturer and ask the manufacturer this question, because each one will be different. Um, any brands of air filters that you like? Do you think coffee is a big eczema trigger? There can be a lot of mold in coffee, right? Yes. Grant D. Cooper, definitely go to the link in my bio and check out my product recommendations. Under the product recommendations, you can go to filters, and then you could check out the filters that I'm recommending there. Um, and you could see some of my recommendations there. Okay. And then mold in coffee. Absolutely. So I do. I actually ask all my eczema patients who are adults to remove coffee, and there's multiple reasons there. So coffee itself potentially has mold. Coffee actually is a toxin that you have to detox out of your system, so that can put burden on your liver. But also, coffee has high levels of caffeine, and caffeine can actually disrupt your hormonal pathways. And unfortunately, a lot of eczema people do have some hormonal imbalances. And especially because a lot of us are taking things like steroids, those steroids can disrupt our hormonal pathways, and then caffeine further can disrupt those. Okay. You're in California and the manager literally does not care. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry here. I want you to know you're in California. You have a lot of rights here. As a tenant, you have a lot of rights. And so, this, first of all, there should be no secondhand smoke in the air. You might be talking, I'm not sure if you're talking about marijuana smoke or cigarette smoke, but cigarettes, shouldn't necessarily be being smoked indoors, I believe. I'm not sure about multifamily homes though. But this is something, you do have a lot of rights here in California for your health. And so something you might want to look into. And again, if you have any questions, definitely you can reach out to me through DM. Thank you. Makes sense about coffee. What about varnish? My wife is worried that the varnish in our apartment is off gassing and contributing. So varnish is definitely going to release some of those VOCs that I talked about, and absolutely it can be problematic. If you smell it and it smells chemically, this is not just something you're smelling, but it's going into your system, right? It's going into your system, and your body is needing to metabolize that toxin. So your wife is correct. This could be problematic, okay? It's a strictly no smoking building, but the management is unable to deal with this professionally and leaving you to suffer. Okay. Yeah, it's quite difficult to, for building illnesses, it's quite difficult to live in a multifamily home. I don't know if it's at all possible, but, considering, you know, a home situation where it's not a multifamily home might be a better option, but if that's not a possibility, you just have to do the best you can in terms of cleaning the air in your home, despite what's happening around you. And you can do that by getting the air purifiers, the ionizers, cleaning all the time, etc. Okay. So check out the links in my bio for the product recommendations for those. And you said cigarette smoke. Okay. Yeah. I think that is, yeah, it's a no smoking building. And I think that's illegal in California in a multifamily home. I got my home tested for mold, and I do have a few areas that need to be fixed, but it's just very expensive. Do you have any tips? Yes, I do. So go to the links in my bio. You can go to, there's a section called cleaning. So you could check that out. If you go to product recommendations, then there's a section called cleaning. And not only would you want to clean those areas, so you need to make sure that you're wearing a mask, like a P100 mask would be important. You want to that will protect you when you are cleaning the mold. There are some natural mold cleaners on there, and then there's also something called Home Biotic, which is a probiotic for your home. So that could potentially help to inhibit the mold from continuing to grow. My worst eczema flare ups happen overnight, and I wake in the morning with swollen eyelids and red patches below my eyes. I have topical meds to treat it, but thinking it has to do with the air. Okay. So there's several reasons that your skin can get worse at night. So, first things to think about, I would say, thinking about, are you washing your blankets and your linens? Are you washing those every week? Would be really important, even up to twice a week. Number two, have you thought about your mattress and your pillows? Are there dust mites in there? And the unfortunate thing is, if you aren't cleaning those by steaming them or by vacuuming them up, there are likely dust mites there. So I do think this is a big problem. And for people with eczema, they often have dust mite allergies. So I would think about that as well too. Okay. Um, the other thing to think about is when it's nighttime, our cortisol levels are dropping, which is what it's supposed to do. And the cortisol does protect us by lowering inflammation. So sometimes in general, night times are just harder for eczema people. When I work with my eczema patients, I'm trying to support this and supporting, the nighttime processes to lower inflammation at that time, and even maybe support the adrenals so that that can be improved. Topical meds are not going to fix this at all. So we need to figure out what the root causes are. And if it's happening when you're in your bed, you need to think about those dust mites. The other thing is air, because yes, we are actually breathing more air when we sleep. As we're breathing, we're actually taking in more oxygen. And as we're doing that, are we then taking in more allergens into our system while we're sleeping is another thing to think about. So when I work with my patients, I have them do a lot of journaling. I have them show me, what their environment looks like. I have them show me even your laundry detergent. Maybe that's causing a problem because you're all up in your blankets, and that could be causing a problem too. So when I first work with someone, I'm asking to analyze all of this potentially and help you figure out a solution here. And then not only that, but what is happening in your life. And I would say eczema, it is 75% of the problem is typically our lifestyle, our environment, our nutrition. And then after that, there could be things that we actually need to treat, things like toxins, pathogens, etc. Okay. All right. I think someone is behind drywall. So I'm assuming I'll have to bite the bullet and pay a contractor. I think some is behind the drywall. Okay. Now, if you guys are going to hire someone to remediate your home for mold, I do highly recommend you use companies that are really specific to people. If you have eczema, companies are actually really paying attention to patients who have mold sensitivity. And they'll say it on their website. They'll say, for people with mold sensitivity, or SEERS is another way of calling that. And so you may want to make sure you're working with a company specifically that mentions those things, because another company may actually not do a thorough job because they're just saying, okay, let's get rid of the mold. And they're not really thinking about, let's get rid of the mycotoxins, which are the toxins that come from the mold. Do you think mouth tape could help? So, if somebody is a mouth breather, something I would like to think about is your nasal passages and whether there's blockage in your nasal passages. And this could actually even be mold that's in your nasal passages. And the mold could be proliferating in your nasal passages, causing you to have more mucus, not being able to breathe as much, having blockages in your nasal passages. And then now you're breathing out your mouth because you're not getting enough oxygen through your nose. So, can mouth taping help that? Well, it will force you to potentially breathe out your nose, but it's not actually fixing the possible problem in your nasal passages, okay, or your sinuses, okay? All right, let's see what other questions we have here. Let's see. Okay, we don't have any questions there. All right, great. If you guys have any other questions, please go ahead and type into the chat box. So this live session, I did write a blog, so you can check out the blog, which I will post shortly on Instagram, but the link is also in my bio. I wrote a blog on all of this, so you can read all about it if you would like. Also, this live is going to go on my podcast. So definitely, if you don't follow my podcast yet, follow my podcast on all podcast platforms. It's called Live with the Eczema Doc, and this is very eczema specific information that I will deliver to you every week. I go live here on Instagram and on YouTube at 12:30 p.m. every Wednesday, and then the recording goes on my podcast. Okay. My wife is worried about working out in a gym and getting another staph infection. Okay. So what I would say is that if she has a lot of open wounds, this can be a concern, and it can be something that you do need to really make sure to think about. We have a kit called the Clean Skin Topical Kit, so you could check it out. The link is in my bio, which has Clean Skin Calm, which has hypochlorous acid, which actually can protect against staph infection. So if she is going to a gym, I might recommend she brings Clean Skin Calm sprayed on her skin, during or right after she works out or after she touches something. Of course, she should be wiping down whatever she's using. And it may be better if she has a lot of open wounds to actually work out at home instead, so she doesn't get all these exposures. But if those wounds are healing up, then doing something like Clean Skin Calm or even Clean Skin Restore, which is a topical probiotic that we have in the Clean Skin Kit as well, are good ideas after working out. I usually bring it, so I actually put Clean Skin Calm in my workout bag, and every time after I'm working out, I just spray myself, because you are getting all these exposures. I like to do hot Pilates, so I'm definitely getting exposures when I do that. If you had a child that wet the bed, would you throw out that mattress and get a new one? Oh, good question. Really good question. So if you have a child that wets the bed, first of all, I want you to get a mattress protector and make sure that that mattress isn't getting wet if possible. If this happened frequently and that wetness of the bed was staying there is a high likelihood that there could be mold there. You could test the mattress if you want first. If you go to the links in my bio, another thing that you could see is if you go to tests, there's a company called Immunolytics, and they do mold testing. And they do have a swab version where you could maybe swab the mattress and then send it in and see if there's mold there. If you feel like there might not be mold, or you want to deal with it without changing out the mattress, I would get a steam cleaner and I would steam that mattress, steam it up. And even if there is a stain from the urine, it should actually clean that stain as well too. And then that steam should be penetrating into the mattress to also kill mold. But it might be hard to completely clear that if there's truly mold growing in there. So if you have any concerns and your child has eczema, I may not take a chance. I would just replace it. And then when you replace it, make sure you're getting a cover to protect the mattress. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for asking all of these wonderful questions. If you have any other questions, please go ahead and type into the chat. Again, I'm so happy to answer any of those questions for you. And definitely check out my free resources. You can reach out to me and DM me if you just want me to send you all of them. If you want me to send you the blog or the links to the podcast and all of that, I can send that to you as well. But otherwise, all of these links are also in my bio, okay? And someone's saying, could you please recommend mattresses that are particularly suitable for asthma patients? Okay, again, product recommendations for you for mattresses, go to the home and office section, and you're going to see all the clean mattress recommendations that I have. What you are looking for is non-toxic mattresses. A lot of our mattresses have a bunch of toxins in them. So if you are buying any furniture, even couches, all of those things are unfortunately laced with these toxins. So you want to make sure that they have certain certifications. And if you go to the links in my bio, product recommendations, go to home and office, you'll see all of my recommendations that are clean. The mattress question made me think of a non-toxic dad post. He was selling an organic mattress because we breathe in a lot of the toxic gases from the toxic mattress. Yes. So all of those organic mattresses are in my product recommendations, and there's a couple of them. So, there's a bunch of companies out there that do this now. But I highly, highly, highly recommend not getting just a regular mattress. And if you have a regular mattress, changing it out. Like, it is worth it. Sleep is one of the most important things we do. And sleep, it's when we heal, it's when we regenerate. There's so many things that happen when we sleep. If we don't get a good night's sleep, then we are not healing and we are not thriving. And then during sleep, again, we are breathing in more oxygen. And if we are sleeping on a bed that is off gassing toxins, we are also breathing in those toxins. So not only for mold, but for the toxicities, a really clean mattress is important. Okay. And it's worth the cost. I know it's going to be a little more expensive. All right, everyone. If you have any other questions, please go ahead and type into the chat box. This has been a great session. Again, I do these every Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. And this recording will also go on my podcast. So if you haven't followed me yet, Live with the Eczema Doc, okay? Overall, what do you think of IKEA shelves? Thinking about getting some. Is Formica that particle board their shelves are made from really bad? Okay. So you want to think when you're buying your furniture, you do want to think about what they're using. When you take out an IKEA piece of furniture and there's a smell, those smells are potentially off-gassing chemicals. So there are companies, there are going to be more expensive that, they have these certifications that say, there's no off-gassing. They've made sure that there aren't all these toxins that they're using in their paint, their varnish, et cetera, et cetera. So you want to look for those certifications. IKEA, cheaper furniture, of course, is not going to think about this. So IKEA is cheaper furniture. And I don't know if there's a way you can then kind of like clean it up because it's baked into the actual furniture itself. So that's, something that you might need to do research on. But I think in general, you may need to think about if you're really, really concerned, I would think about buying furniture from companies that do not, that have these certifications and say that they do not off-gas these toxins. Then the other thing is we also need to decide, what is the most important to spend our money on, I think is another question. And I think I always like to start with what's going in our body and touching our body. So if you have a decision to eat organic food or buy organic furniture, I would eat organic food, right? Like what's going in your system is most important. What's in the air, you could help that even if you have things that are off-gassing, you could help that by getting an ionizer or air purifier, and then making sure that the things like you're sleeping on, or let's say your couch that you're spending all your time on, those things are clean, and maybe not all your furniture is clean, right? So that's another choice that you can make if you're trying not to, spend an arm and a leg on everything, right? Is asthma and eczema linked together? Absolutely. Absolutely 100%. Asthma and eczema are linked, and we often see these conditions together. In fact, when I had really bad eczema, I also had exercise-induced asthma. These mechanisms are similar. That what is happening is that there is inflammation that's being triggered on the skin, and then there's inflammation being triggered in the lungs, and the path, the mechanisms of that are very similar. And the way we treat that could be really similar as in naturopathic medicine is we're trying to find the triggers for what's actually stimulating those inflammatory processes. There's a lot of labs that we can do to understand what those triggers are, everything from mold to, mold to toxins to pathogens, bacterial, viral, etc. And we want to think about those together. So when we are treating eczema, we are treating asthma at the same time, if those are coming together as naturopathic doctors. As a conventional doctor, they see these kind of separately. They do recognize that they are in a triad, typically asthma, eczema, allergy, but they tend to treat them differently, and in some ways the same, because they might give you a inhaler that's actually a steroid, and then for the skin they're giving you a steroid for the skin, right? So inherently it's the same thing, but they're treating the two different places rather than treating the root cause, which will then hit all of those symptoms. Is Tempur-Pedic not ideal in this regard, considering the amount of chemicals used? 100%, absolutely. Tempur-Pedic is not a good idea for toxicity. Now, it might be very comfortable, you know, but they do have healthier mattresses that are like Tempur-Pedic. They would be like non-toxic latex mattresses, so you can look into that. Instead, I know Tempur-Pedic's expensive, and I have asked a bunch of my patients to get rid of their Tempur-Pedic because I thought it may be contributing to their eczema symptoms, and other inflammatory symptoms they might be experiencing. Okay. All right. Other questions, other comments. Thank you so much for everybody joining in here on the conversation. Please go ahead and type into the chat box if there are any other questions or comments, and I'm happy to again answer them. And as I'm waiting here, just a reminder, I go live every Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. This recording does go on my podcast as well. And I had a question for you guys while we're waiting for any more comments here. If this recording goes on my podcast, do you want me to include the questions, the question and answer section, or do you want me to just include the lecture portion where I'm educating you? If you can give me some feedback, that would be great. Okay, and then someone says, I've been getting organic chicken breast from Costco. How bad do you think the soft plastic that they are packaged in is? Are you a fan of chicken for an eczema sufferer? Okay. So in general, an appropriate diet for an eczema person is different for every person. And so I don't necessarily like to make broad recommendations, except there are three broad recommendations I tend to like to make. No egg, no gluten, no dairy, no sugar. Those are three foods that I do think definitely trigger eczema. The chicken breasts from Costco, I love that they're organic. Yes, I do not love the plastic that all of our meat is packaged in. I do tend to like to get my meat from the butcher instead, if possible. At least it's not hanging out there in plastic. Now, with that being said, it could have been hanging out in plastic prior to it being shown, in the butcher area. But I usually prefer, if I'm going to make a decision, I'll say, okay, let me go to the butcher area instead of getting the pre-packaged plastic ones. I did look into latex material. Those are even more expensive. They are even more expensive. Yeah. Which mattress brands would you recommend that have less toxic levels? Yes. So this is in my product recommendations. Go to product recommendations and then home and office. Okay. All right. What do you think about Vaseline for the skin for moisturizer? I do not like it. Vaseline has petroleum and or mineral oil. I forget if there's mineral oil in Vaseline. Petroleum, just like it sounds, comes from a pretty toxic source. So if you are going to use anything with petroleum, first off, when you are using something with petroleum, make sure that it is labeled white petroleum. That means that it has been cleaned an extra step. I believe Vaseline does not say white petroleum. It just says petroleum, which means there still could be some contaminants in that petroleum. So I do not like this for my eczema patients. If you guys are looking for something that's Vaseline-like, at Clean Body, we have an ointment called Clean Skin Protect. I have designed it to be like a Vaseline-like ointment, but without things like soy, coconut, petroleum, mineral oil. It's completely organic and completely natural. So definitely check that out. Again, link is in my bio. You can check out the Clean Skin Topical Kit. It's in there, but you can also just buy the ointment separately. It's called Clean Skin Protect. Okay. All right. Great. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in this conversation. Again, I go live every Wednesday at 12:30, so definitely come and ask all your questions. I do a different topic every week, and this recording will also be on my podcast. So check that out live with the Eczema Doc, okay? I hope that everybody has a great week, and I will see you next